Shalom everyone, and today we're studying Parashat Aharei-Mot. Parashat Aharei-Mot can be found in the book of Leviticus, Vayikra, chapter 16, verse 1. And Parashat Aharei-Mot is always being read during that period that is called Sefirat Omer, the counting of the Omer. This is the 7 weeks period between Passover and Shavuot, Mount Sinai revelation. 7 weeks within those 7 weeks, as we studied, when we studied about Pesach, about Passover, that on the day of Passover, the night of Passover, to make it more correct, something very unusual happened, which is the Creator himself revealed such a great revelation that was never revealed before and never revealed after. And that revelation was or contained all the levels, the spiritual levels of growth of a human being from childhood till coming and becoming a real, righteous, complete, whole person united with God. Why? Because that was the only way to get the Israelites out of the bondage, out of under the sorcery, the rulership, the control, the brainwash of the Egyptian culture, civilization. It was very powerful. We have studied today how rich was the Egyptian civilization, leaving all of that behind and going to the desert for an unknown future was impossible for every human being, especially for a bunch of slaves. So the only way to get the Israelites out was to instill within them all those levels of greatness, growth, epiphany, wisdom, and prophecy, so they could look at the future and get out of Egypt with tremendous excitement and happiness. Since God created that inside the Israelites, that disappeared the next day, since basically whatever doesn't belong to you cannot stay too long. And therefore, after everything went away, now came the period of the 7 weeks, the counting of the Omer, in which now, after tasting that amazing, impossible, illogical union with God, now the Israelites, after tasting that taste, they were marching in the desert and every day bringing in another level in 49 degrees, 49 steps, 49 days, and on the 50th, we received the rest of the 51 levels that are missing from the Tree of Life. Remember, the Tree of Life has 10 sephirot, 10 levels, 10 emanations. Each one is divided by 10, altogether 100. During the counting of the Omer, we achieve 49, and then there's a matching. After we achieve the 49, the Creator will give us the missing 51 because we did our best and we created the vessel. Now, every year, since we learn from the great Kabbalists, every year, whatever happened continues to illuminate and to shine again. So the same way we were supposed to receive the great illumination on the night of the Seder, now we have the ability to build ourselves up step by step. And this process is called the counting of the Omer, or if you really understand the Kabbalistic meaning, you can use the word counting, Sephirah, as illumination. Omer means the supreme white light of the Creator. So we are right now counting the white illuminations of the divine light of love and completion that is being revealed every day. A new light is being revealed so we can attain it through our own work, through our own meditation. Meanwhile, since we are in the process of building ourselves up, all the steps that we got on the night of the Seder, now they're coming in order for 49 days. And therefore, these days, the days of the Omer, are days of limitation. Why limitation? Because we are not there yet. We don't have all the mochin, all the brains, all the consciousness, all the steps that we need. Each one of us can remember moments in the past in which we were convinced 100% that we are right and everybody else is wrong. And we were willing to go for it 100 miles an hour, 1,000 miles an hour, okay? And go for it without any hesitation. And now we look backwards and we say, shame on me. How did I even dare to think this way? That's how people are. People grow. People are not born perfect, as we're going to see today. And whatever you see, perceive, understand the universe and yourself today is going to be obsolete within a week, a month, a year, 10 years. There's only, even in science, there's an amazing book that was published not long ago that speaks about the halftime longevity of scientific ideas. Halftime, what do I mean halftime? It's like a radioactive element. There's a halftime, which means it exists for a while and then there's a probability when it stops existing, when it breaks into its elements and becoming something that it was not before. Okay, same thing with scientific ideas. Oh, there was a scientific idea that the earth is flat. It's over for most people. Okay, there was an idea, I remember as a student myself, that the human brain is coming to its peak in our early 20s, and from that moment it can only deteriorate, and it has no flexibility whatsoever. This idea is gone, although some people are still believing in that. Okay, there are many ideas in science that people are still holding to ideas they heard when they were kids and are not updated, that these ideas that were the absolute truth, scientific truth in the past, and it's not anymore. Why? Because no findings realized that the whole scientific world, at least at that area, was wrong. Okay, so I won't go into it, but that's science. And science is all about breaking down theories and realizing that they come to an expiration date. Same thing about our perception of our reality. Same thing about our perception of who we are, what we are capable about or capable of, and how can we do things. This, if the moment you close yourself down, you're just a beast. What does it mean, a beast? Beasts, usually they grow. A lot of beasts, they're very intelligent as young creatures. And when they come to adulthood, they get fixated and they never try to look at the universe around them from another angle. Humans are the only species that has the ability that as we grow older, we can basically burn to the stake all our old belief systems and create new ones, more correct, based on new experiences, based on new information gathered, based on our own mental growth and maturity, in which that allows us to realize that whatever we thought about reality in the past has its own expiration date, and there's always that releasing awareness, awakenness, in which, okay, I was sure about it, but now I know, I'm sure that it's wrong, and there's another way. And who I am today is since and because and thanks to all the belief systems I had before, they were just the lower degrees, the lower steps I had to climb on in order to finally reach where I am right now. And that's another understanding of the counting of the Omer. It's about climbing the steps up. And what does it mean? Every time you climb another step, it means you have to let go of the steps you were at before. Otherwise, you don't leave step number 6. How can you reach step number 7? And if you don't let go of step number 7, how can you attain step number 8? And basically, that's being a human being. How is that connected to Parashat Aharei-Mot? It's very interesting because Parashat Aharei-Mot is mostly, it's not just mostly, the whole Parashah is about the Day of Atonement, Yom Kippurim. Yom Kippurim is being celebrated 6 months away from the reading of Parashat Aharei-Mot. And by the way, on Yom Kippurim, the very big part of the Parashah is being read in the morning, Torah reading of Yom Kippurim, Parashat Aharei-Mot, and the rest of the Parashah is being read in the afternoon Torah reading on Yom Kippurim. And we finish Parashat Aharei-Mot every Yom Kippur. So we read Parashat Aharei-Mot during the week of the Parashah, this week of the year, and on the day of Yom Kippur. So what is the connection? And it's a very powerful connection. What is Yom Kippur about? Yom Kippur is about purification. Yom Kippur is about climbing the ladder from slavery to the physical mortal reality, up the ladder to spiritual freedom and really connecting to union with the Creator and with the creation, and that union will give us basically our freedom for the rest of the year. And that's exactly fitting into what the counting of the Omer is about. It's about climbing the steps, so when we reach the 50th gate on Shavuot, on the holiday of Shavuot, then we reach real freedom, freedom from our own bondage, from our own wrong perceptions of life, from our own mortal emotions and expectations, into growing into a new, different me that is being given to me every year, all over again, twice a year, as we realize. Once on Shavuot, 50 days after Passover, and once on Yom Kippur, the 10th day of the month of Tishrei. So there is a very strong connection between the two, and Parashat Aharei-Mot is giving us some of the conditions we have to accept in order to achieve that level of freedom that we can attain this round, this season, this part of the year. So when we start in the Parashah, Aharei-Mot, Aharei means after, Mot means the death of. Aharei-Mot, it means, and God speaks to Moses, Vaydaber Adonai el Moshe Aharei-Mot shnei bnei Aaron. And God speaking to Moses after the death of the 2 sons of Aaron, Bekorvatam lifnei Adonai, as they came closer in front of God, Vayamutu, and died. Amazing phrase, amazing way to phrase it. But the question is, why mentioning it now? We described the terrible event, the drama of the death of the two sons of Aaron, we read about it in Parashat Shmini, that was a few weeks ago. That was read, that is always being read sometime around the new month of Nisan, which was a day of the dedication, the establishment of the tabernacle, the Mishkan, the dwelling place of the Shekhinah, the Israelites built in the desert. The whole nation experienced forgiveness on that day from the sin of the golden calf, and everybody achieved a prophetic level of revelation. And then the two sons of Aaron went closer to God, burned, and the whole event came to a dramatic, tragic end as the two sons of Aaron died. So why mentioning them? Again, we already read the story a few weeks ago. And there's a very common reaction to that among all the sages. And let me read the Zohar, of course, and the Zohar will guide us step by step into what is the connection between the death of the sons of Aaron on the new moon of Nisan, a year after the Exodus, on the day that the tabernacle was basically activated, first time in history. Okay? What's the connection between that and Yom Kippur? What is the connection between that and the process we all can go through during the 7 weeks of the counting of the Omer? In the Zohar, I'm starting from verse 2 in the Holy Zohar, when the verse 2 is saying as follows. Aharei-Mot shnei bnei Aaron, after the death of the sons of Aaron, Rabbi Yitzchak petach. Rabbi Yitzchak opened, and usually when it says opened, it means in a simple level, open his mouth to say, but basically opened a discussion. Or more spiritually, he opens another level for us to enter, another gate. And he's quoting a very powerful quote, which is from Psalms 2, and he says, as Ivdu et Adonai bi'irah v'gilu bir'ada. Worship God with awe, rejoice with a tremor, with a shiver. Okay, Uchtiv, and then there's another verse. It's all with these two verses, and that verse is also in Psalms 100. Ivdu et Adonai b'simcha, worship God with happiness. Bo'u lefanav birnana, come to him with joy. Okay? Hane kai kasher nadadi. These two verses, it's like they are contradicting each other. Why? One says you worship God with awe, and the other one says with happiness. One says when you are rejoicing, you should do it with like when you are like with a shiver, with a tremor, again with some fear and awe, while the other one says, come in front of him with joy. It's like two different schools, but it's both of them in the same book, Psalms. אלך איתנה, עבדו את אדוני ביראה, דכל פולחנה דבאי ברנש למפלח כממראה, בקדמתי באי יראה, לדחלה מיני. וגין דחלה דמראה, ישתכח לבטר דיעבד בחדוותה פיקודי אורייתא. בדקתי מה אדוני אלוהיך שואל מעמך, כי אם ליראה. Translation, we already learned why does it say worship God with awe? Because every work that a person wants to do for his master, it has to start with awe. And this is explained much more in detail in the introduction to the Zohar. The last part of the introduction of the Zohar, it's a very, very powerful study, and it starts with that. And it says the gate for all levels of spiritual growth is awe, not fear, awe, A-W-E. What is awe? Awe, it could be, I'm using the word awe as a translation of the Hebrew word yir'ah, okay? So it's easier to remember. Yir'ah, ah, okay? So there's a similar sound of the last syllable of the word yir'ah. And the word yir'ah, Rabbi Shimon is explaining in the Zohar of Introduction to the Zohar that yir'ah, the word yir'ah is a very complex word because it's not fear. Fear in Hebrew is pachad. So translating awe into fear, yir'ah into fear is wrong. Although in many places, in many translations of the text, of the biblical text, it's being translated wrongly into fear. Don't fall into it. Yir'ah is more than fear, and I'll explain. Yir'ah, there is an element of fear in yir'ah, for sure. But when we say something is awesome, what do we mean? There is an element of excitement. There's an element of awareness of greatness. Think that the word awareness starts also with the beginning awe, that word. Only when someone arrives to a real awe, says the Zohar, only then you can enter a new level of spiritual growth. This is the gate for all spiritual levels. So that means that every work, which means every project we have, we want to enter another level of spiritual growth. The first thing is awe. Lira mifanav, we should have an awe of God. Now the word ira in Hebrew is the same letters as re'iyah, sight. Sight means, fear is usually connected to fear of the unknown, fear of pain, of fear that is blind, while awe is very much aware. So when somebody can experience awe of the greatness of the creation, or the greatness of what we are going through right now, the level we're going through, only then we have an awareness, which means we are in sight of what we're going through. It's a mixture of understanding, appreciation, excitement, love, and fear in one thing. That is what awe is about, yir'ah. Bishvil yirat ribono, and when you achieve the yir'ah of your master, then you can merit doing or entering that level of Torah study, experience, connection with happiness. I'll give you an example. Somebody is learning how to drive. You have to remember that a car can be a killing machine because the strength of the engine is so many times stronger than the strength of our muscles. Also, the weight of a car is so much more than the weight of our body, which means a car can be a killing device. It's a very dangerous machine. If you're not aware of that, if you don't have awe, which means appreciation and awareness of the power that you're holding in your hands and in your feet while you're driving a car, okay? If you're not aware of it, you're not supposed to get a license. You're not supposed to get to the wheel. Why? Because you have to be aware of the strength and the power of the machine you are driving. Otherwise, you are not allowed, you're not supposed to have that. Same thing, being able to use a gun, any kind of device. It's like giving a child a big body of a big human being. You can go into fights and so on. When you're a child, when you're a small child and you don't have so much power, you cannot hurt too much. Still, if you have an awareness of the greatness, the power, the options, and the danger of being given so much power in your hands, only then you can basically enter a car, get a license, and start traveling among millions of other people on the streets of the cities, the states, the countries that you want to travel through, okay? If you don't have that awareness, you are very dangerous. Same thing about spiritual growth. Every level comes with a power. Every level comes with a gift. On one hand, there's an excitement about it. On the other hand, there is the danger of misusing that level, that power, okay? This is very important. Without that awareness, you are not ready to enter the next level. And that's called yirah, or awe. ועל כן כתוב, and that's why it says, and that's another verse, very important verse from the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 10, where it says, מה אדוני אלוהיך שואל מעמך, כי אם ליראה. What is the Lord God wanting from you but awe, yirah? Because when you have yirah, you can enter the gate and you can merit having the ability to use the power of that level. Shal yada yizkeh lakol, because using the awe, the yirah, you can merit everything. Now, after we understand that, now the Zohar brought us to what we're talking about, the death of the sons of Aaron. That's verse 5 in the Sulam, commentary of the Zohar. Mentioning here, after the death, it says, after the death of sons of Aaron, and then it says, that was verse 1 on chapter 16, and then that is just an introduction, says the Zohar, to verse 2, Bezot yavo Aaron el HaKodesh. And it says the word bezot, with that. That is a simple understanding, but the word zot means much more than that. With that, Aaron will go into the holiness, okay? And there's a whole discussion about what does that mean, and that will help us to expand even more the discussion, okay? So first of all, it speaks about the death of the sons of Aaron, and then, Bezot yavo Aaron. איזה קשר בין Aharei-Mot לבזאת יבוא אהרון? So Rabbi Ashlag is asking, what's the connection between the death of the sons of Aaron And when you say after the death, which means it's a consequence, it's a result. And what is the result? That we have a warning. This is the beginning of a warning of the priest, of the Kohanim. את כל אחד, each one of them, שצריכים להיזהר בזאת הזו שהיא יראת השם. Yet they have to be very careful about zot, because zot is the Shekhinah, zot is the presence of God, and zot is awe. How come? You cannot have the presence of the divine in your life without having awe. What does it mean? Like when you're driving a car, you're holding the wheels and you are aware of the power that you are entrusted with. If you're not aware of it, sooner or later, you'll stop. Either you'll be stopped by a police or by an accident that will take your life or send you to the hospital or will destroy the car. You cannot having something so powerful in your hands without appreciating the power you're holding, understanding that power, understanding the limits of that power, and having awe, which means, on one hand, I'm really appreciative of this awesome power entrusted in my hands. On the other hand, I'm aware of the consequences because this is so powerful. It can be also such a source of damage. It can be lethal. So, and what does it mean? Why the Kohanim need to be careful? Because connecting to God is not a game. Connecting to the different emanations of the tree of life, it's not a game. You have to start with awe. It's not a childish game that, oh, God loves us and therefore whatever we do, it's going to be okay, don't worry. Just be happy, don't worry. And the Zohar does not agree with don't worry, be happy. No, you can be happy only after you are aware. And you have some worry because you know of the power to destroy, because whatever has the power to build has the power to destroy. Whatever can bring benefit has also been used wrongly, can also destroy. So you cannot just talk about a narrative in which everything goes and everything is okay. No, it doesn't work this way. You have, in order to survive that journey that is called a human life, you have to understand that there are consequences of playing with power, playing with ideas, playing with words. It's all about power. And if you take it easily and you say, oh, there are no consequences, I can do whatever I want. No, you can't. Oh, but there's a narrative. You know, it doesn't matter what's your narrative. You put your finger in the socket, it will kill you, correct? Or make a damage. Why? It's not a matter of a narrative. When you build a house, you can't have narratives. You must answer the code of electric engineering, period. You can't play with it. But I have a narrative. You can't play with it. When you build a building and you put the foundations and you build, I don't care how many stories, and what's the height and what's the purpose of the building. You can't just play with narrative. The numbers are very crucial. The weight, the powers, and so on. If you're building on sand, you're building on next to a fault line, it has to be really clear, and the numbers, you can't play with them. And if you play with them, it means you have no awe of the forces of nature. And if you don't really respect the forces of nature, that will come at you and be lethal. The sons of Aaron They, with huge passion, the Zohar says, they ran into the holiness of holies with the incense, with so much excitement, but they lacked the awe, which means they never did it before. They didn't train themselves before. They had no idea what they're facing, and the result, they were burnt and died on the spot. Why? There was a narrative of God loves us and everything is great, and let's just embrace God and godliness and run into the light. And that killed them because there was no awe. There was no awareness that you're playing with high voltage of power. Life is power. Without power, everything is dead. Without the power of God, nothing exists. If you don't respect the forces of the creation and the creator that are instilled in everything in the universe, you don't respect them, if you don't understand their rules, sooner or later, you're going to hurt yourself. And then what? You're going to blame God? It's like blaming the electric company when you put your finger in the socket. It's like, you have to, should outgrow that. You should have learned it when you've been 1 year, 2 years old, when you started crawling around, and then you should learn not to play with electricity. That was simple, okay? You had no fear, and that no awe, no understanding. The result is pain, and you can't just sue the electric company unless today you have no idea. You have some places in which you can sue anyone for anything because, it's coming to the idea that you're not supposed to take responsibility for your actions, for the consequences of the lack of awareness or fear, and fear of the actions, fear of doing stupid things without realizing the greatness of the forces of the creation that you're playing with. So let's continue those amazing words of the Zohar. Verse 6, Perush Acher, another commentary. The first one was, they were not careful, they had no fear, they didn't realize how dangerous is the game they're playing. They wanted to connect to God, but they were not willing to realize, same thing, you don't get a driver's license before you do many lessons, then your teacher brings you to the test, and then you get the license if you pass the test. If you really behave with responsibility, if you're careful enough, realizing that you're driving a death machine in potential. You don't realize that, you can't get the license, okay? They were not prepared to bring the offering of the incense into the holiness, the Holy of Holies. They were not. Only what the Zohar is saying, only after exercising, preparing, going to the test, then you can drive the car happily. Aaron, their father, he was prepared. He prepared himself for months for that moment. They did not prepare. So they were not careful. You're really, when you are dealing with spirituality, it applies the same as the rules of electricity, engineering, whatever, the rules of food. You're not, you just eat any kind of food. You have to be aware. Food can be poison. Food can be medicine. You're not aware of it, there are consequences. Words can kill. Words can give life, can save. Everything in life, every step must be start must start with awe. We have no awe, we have to trouble. So what does verse 6 has to add to us? Perush Acher, another commentary. Rabbi Yossi Amar, Rabbi Yossi says, after the death of the Nadav and Avihu, היה צריך לומר, it should have been said, מהו אותם שומר שני בני אהרון? Why the two sons of Aaron? Why does he say? והרי ידוע שבניו היו. Why do we have to mention Aaron? We know they were his sons. הוא משיב and he answers, אלא כך למדנו, we already learned, כי עד כאן לא היו עומדים ברשות עצמם אלא ברשות אביהם. Till now, they were under the custody of their father. על כן כמה כתוב בני אהרון, and that's why they were called the sons of Aaron. They were not really independent. And when you're not independent, which means why someone is under a custodian? Because you're not really responsible for all your doings. ומשום זה בקרבתם לפני השם וימותו there, and that's why when they got closer to God and died, this is this translation of the verse in the Torah. שהיו דוחקים את השעה, they couldn't wait. They were supposed to be the next in line after Aaron. They couldn't wait. They wanted it now. They wanted to get high oneness with the Creator now. While the Father is still there. He just started the job. They wanted to offer the incense while at that time, only the high priest, one person, was allowed to get into the Holy of Holies, and only the high priest could do that, and only with the incense. והכל היה, and everything was there. Which means, Rabbi Shaul Youdkevitch, כלומר שעוד דברים היו שגרמו למיתתה, there were many other things that were involved in that death. All of them teach us the same thing. בשביל אותו עוון שעשו בהקריבה מהסדרה. Because of that sin that they brought under fire, a fire that belongs to the other side. There's no doubt they were very excited. There was no doubt they wanted to get so close to God, and they wanted it now. And that was wrong, because it was a dark fire. Because there was no awe. It was only passion. Passion must be harnessed with awe. If you have a passion to build a home, and you build it whatever, it's just, I'll do it just the way I feel like. I don't have to ask engineers, the code, city code, all kinds of stuff like this. This is nonsense. Everything will go well. No, it doesn't work this way. In the spiritual world, it is the same. People think that in an imaginary world, there are narratives. Everything goes. You just believe it and you think positive, everything will go great. I don't remember, there was a cult. I call it a cult. It was called The Secret in the early 2000s till 2008. And that cult was like prophecy about one thing. Just think positive. And you just think positive, and you go and you buy and you take loans and you take mortgages and you invest and you go forward and you think big and everything will be big. You think good, it's going to be good. What was the little problem? There was no awe over there. And there was another problem. They didn't realize that thinking good just about yourself, that's a cult. And that exploded 2008 when the whole economy worldwide simply crushed within a very short time. Banks collapsed, like companies, it's like the whole world economy changed forever. We didn't learn that yet because people still don't realize there are consequences. You can't just think positive about yourself. You can't just think about getting more money, more excitement, more fulfillment, all on materialistic level, and get away with it. That's against the rules of the universe. What is the issue about the Torah? The issue is about there are rules. These rules, the same way you want, there are rules if you want to connect to the network of electricity. You have to go by the code. If you don't prove through engineering programs that you and engineers will sign on it, you can't get to the network. Same thing. You build a machine that does the work of a cellular phone. Okay, but that needs to be approved by the authorities, the special authorities. Why? The battery. There's so many dangerous things that can kill you. A phone can kill somebody. There's a small little thing. It's deadly. There's a lot of power in that little device. Everything has consequences, and you think that imagination, ideas, consciousness do not have to follow any rules. This is what the Torah is about. There are rules. You want to access high levels of spirituality, you have to go by the code. And it starts, that's why the gate is called Yirah. Awe. It's awesome. And therefore, I have to learn the rules step by step. I have to learn what is okay, what is not okay. And that's nothing to do with the narrative. The rules are very precise. The same way that are precise in the network of the electric network and the cellular network and all kinds of other networks like gas, like water. There are rules. There are forces that are very strong. If you're not dealing with them with respect, that can be deadly. And the consequences can be really harsh. People don't understand. The Torah is not just a nice book. The Torah is the book of the rules of the universe. And the first thing the Torah is giving us is awe. Yirah. You have to respect those rules. And you have to learn the rules slowly. And that's how you develop your awareness. That's how you become a grown-up. Little kids cannot be entrusted with electricity, driving cars. Why? They have no ability to imagine the possible danger. And therefore, they cannot achieve awe of something much greater than them. Because the powers we are playing with are much bigger than the powers we're accustomed to. So, in other place it says, מקום אחר כתוב, בקרבתם לפני השם. משום ההקרבה מתו, because they got closer to God, they died. Because they were not ready for that. They simply wanted that level without the work needed to achieve that level. You want to achieve epiphany, prophecy, high awareness, the divine spirit, whatever. You have to go through steps. You have to accept some responsibility for your thoughts, your brain, the way you deal with your life, the way you speak. You learn about Jewish meditation, and which is something that very few people speak about it. To at least the way I experience it, it's like not too many people. But Jewish meditation is very powerful, very, very powerful. And every book dealing with the Jewish meditation, either we start with a Zohar and we go to through the 12th century Rabbi Avraham Abulafia, and later on Rabbi Chaim Vital and others. The first thing is you want to access those forces, you have to watch out about your virtues. You have to learn to take cleanliness, in your thoughts, what you say, what you read, everything that goes in your mind and in your heart. You have to really stick to honesty. It's like all of these stages of spiritual growth. It's like you can't just meditate and connect to high powers when you're lying, when you're not really thinking about consequences, about simple behavior among people. This is unacceptable. Why? You can destroy yourself, because accessing so much power without responsibility, without self-control, that is basically the whole story of the counting of the Omer. It says that the counting of the Omer, they are in the Jewish tradition, the Jewish halakha, even the Jewish law, you should behave very carefully during the counting of the Omer, which means you don't no weddings, no great celebrations of bar mitzvah or something like this, no buying houses, no, big things you delay to later. Why? We are not really sure about who we are and what we are during this time, because we are still in training. And when we are in training, you don't jump high. You don't jump into a life-changing events like getting married, like buying a house, like starting a business. Why? You're not aware of the forces inside you and around you yet. You didn't study, you didn't train yourself, because you're going right now through a stage, the 7 weeks of rebirth of your awareness, your consciousness. So there are a lot of judgments. What are judgments? Like a little kid. There are a lot of judgments. Every little hardship, they cry like this is the end of the world. A little child is like manic depressive. No control whatsoever. When they're excited, they're really excited. And when they're not happy, they're very unhappy. Okay? No control whatsoever. When you realize that we are every year between Passover and Shavuot, we are like growing up again. You don't play with forces that we don't know the league yet. We don't know the extent, the power. We don't know how to appreciate and how to evaluate what's at stake. So that's why the Jewish law says you're supposed to postpone it till after the high holiday, after Shavuot. Well, that's the best thing. Some say it's not that bad after Lag BaOmer. Why? Because we went through most of the judgments, and from now it's just growth. So, okay, whoever says so. But I think you understand the idea. So, but here comes another thing, another concept that we should understand very carefully. Verse 9, and it says as follows, עוד פתחו ואמרו, בכל זמן שהצדיקים מסתלקים מן העולם, מסתלקים מן העולם דינים. When righteous people leave this world, judgments are being sweetened, are being taken away. And ומיתתם של הצדיקים מכפרת על עוונות הדור. And the death of righteous people atone for the sins of the generation. And that's therefore, we read, and that's read in many, many commentaries, we start the Torah reading of Yom Kippur with the death of the 2 sons of Aaron. Because their death, when you feel the pain of their death and their loss, because their souls, says the Zohar, were the highest souls that ever walked on the earth. And then we can get an atonement. Just a second, didn't we say they sinned? They were not supposed to do what they did. And they stopped the great event of the establishing of the tabernacle, the portable temple the Israelites had in the desert. What are we talking about? And the answer is yes. If you think about it, if you have the Zohar, you read from verse 9 and on, and you realize there's a concept that is very important over here. The concept is righteous people also make mistakes. Righteous people also pay the consequences. Righteous people can get hurt, even lethally, by making mistakes. That doesn't mean they're not righteous. And that's a very important concept in the whole Tanakh. There's, as it says, "En tzaddik she'aseh tov ba'aretz v'lo yachta." There's no righteous person who will do only good without sinning. We're human beings. We make mistakes. It's not okay, but it's not the end of the world. It's all forgivable. You always have another chance. And it says they died. But the Zohar says their bodies died, but not their souls. Their souls waited. And when Pinchas, 39 years later, Pinchas, their nephew, the son of Elazar, their brother, when he goes with huge passion to kill Cosbi and Zimri, having another fire of sexual passion, that the wrong side of that passion, and he kills them. And with that passion that he kills them, he saves the people, and he changes history. They go into him, Nadav and Avihu. They incarnate into him because he dies at that moment when he kills the two. And the two sons of Aaron, his uncles, jump in, resurrect him, and then his original soul comes in. And now he has, let's say, three souls. His own soul and the two souls of Nadav and Avihu. So now passion is corrected with passion. And Pinchas, because of that, became the high priest, and he never died. There's no burial place for Pinchas. You know why? Pinchas became so divine that people stopped calling him Pinchas. They started to call him Elijah, the prophet. Elijah the prophet is Pinchas, says the Talmud. He didn't incarnate into Elijah the prophet. He simply never died. And finally, he went up in a chariot of fire, and he comes down. Many times somebody really needs help. And that's what happened to the two sons of Aaron. They had another opportunity. And what do we learn from here? What do we learn about the counting of the Omer? It's not a terrible time. It's not a bad time. It's a great time of growth. But when you're busy growing, when you're busy learning how to drive, you cannot just take the car and go on the highway, okay, on a long journey. The same thing when you're learning any kind of profession, you cannot just jump to the top and like not going through the steps. Enjoy the process, be careful about it, and realize we are all beloved by the Creator. Still, we need to respect the forces of the creation so we can enjoy and realize how happy life can be. What a beautiful message. Thank you so much.